The vastness of space was a silent witness to the convergence of two mighty fleets. On one side, the sleek, angular ships of the Carothian alliance glinted menacingly under the distant starlight. On the other, the formidable vessels of Earth's interstellar navy stood ready, bristling with advanced weaponry and defensive systems. The tension was palpable as the fleets faced each other in a remote sector of the galaxy, far from any inhabited worlds. This was a carefully chosen location, a neutral ground where the fate of countless star systems would be decided. The Carothians, a proud and ancient race, had long sought to expand their empire, while humanity, newcomers to the galactic stage, was determined to carve out its own place among the stars. Aboard the U.S. Resolute, the flagship of the human fleet, Chief Diplomat Andrew Collins prepared himself for the upcoming negotiations. He was a seasoned diplomat, known for his ability to navigate the most treacherous political waters. Yet even he felt the weight of the moment as he adjusted his uniform and stepped onto the bridge. The situation between Earth and Carothia had grown so serious recently that this could be the beginning of the first interstellar war between these mighty powers. It was Andrew's job to stop that from happening.
"Ready, Mr. Collins?"
asked Captain Melissa Hayes, her steely eyes reflecting the seriousness of the situation. Andrew nodded.
"As ready as I'll ever be. Let's get this started."
On the view screen, the image of the Carothian flagship flickered into view. It was an imposing sight, its dark hull adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Moments later, the visage of the Carothian chief negotiator appeared, a stern face being named Xanthor.
"Representatives of Earth."
Xanthor intoned, his voice resonating with a deep, gravelly tone.
"It is in protest that we open these negotiations. Humans have infringed upon Carothian space for many cycles, and there comes a time for this to stop. And that time is now."
Andrew grimaced. This was not a good way to start the negotiations, especially since he was planning on starting the conversation much the same way as the Carothian.
It is agreed that there have been infractions, but not exclusively from the human side. Your ships have been constantly invading the Green Nebula, harassing human shipping and disrupting trade.
Collins replied, keeping his tone matching that of the alien.
It should be known that Earth will not tolerate much more of this.
On the screens, the two negotiators stared at each other. Andrew was upset that these talks were taking place on the bridge of the Resolute where crew members could hear and see events as they unfolded. It was better to do these kinds of talks in private where the professionals could do their jobs and play their games without an audience in attendance. It felt as if he had to be the big guy on the block and not show weakness. But diplomatic negotiations were more like a dance rather than a winner-take-all contest, and Andrew Collins could dance better than most. But the Admiralty insisted that this be a more public affair, probably because they fully expected for these talks to end in a full-scale shooting war between the species. They wanted witnesses to the aliens' irascible attitude. This public venue was making Collins' job harder. He needed to give a little, to get a little, feeling out his opponent in order to identify their weak points, their strengths, and their priorities. Instead, it was he who must appear immovable, uncompromising, or else others would see his efforts as being weak and indecisive. But that was how the game was played, most of the time. As it was, he did know that the Carothian priorities revolved around gaining the exclusive rights to 3 particular worlds, Bor, Senilus, and Vacor. These planets, they argued, were strategically important and would bolster their defenses against other potential threats. Collins had no idea where these worlds were or what they had to offer, both to the Carothians and to the humans. The two species, although bitter rivals, had very little contact in the past. In fact, no one had ever been in the same room with a Carothian, and vice versa. And all the conflicts to date had been between starships and with only a few actual shooting incidences. The humans knew next to nothing about the aliens, and they knew just as little about us. The alien was speaking again.
"Your words are strong, even as you demand that we surrender the Green Nebula to you. This is newfound territory for us, and we are still exploring. You wish us to surrender valuable resources even before they are found. That will not happen."
And basically the negotiations went downhill from there. An hour later, and after more endless back and forth, a recess was called. Andrew called Captain Hayes to the nearby ready room.
"Please let me speak to Xanthor in private, or with only you present. We're both playing for the crowd, neither of us willing to give an inch. This is not how these negotiations are handled. Trust me when I say that."
The captain listened to his words as a cloud came over her face.
I agree with you, Andrew, and I can see where this is heading. I'm going to grant your wish. If the Carothians also agree to move the talks to a more private location, I think it is worth a try. If not, then we're all in a world of hurt.
Then she smiled.
Don't tell the Admiralty this, but I think they've seen too many science fiction movies where the only noble outcome is a galactic war. They all want to play Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. Well, forget that. We'll try it your way, and to hell with the consequences.
While the Carothians were being contacted about a change of venue for the negotiations, Andrew began to wonder what was so special about the planets Bor, Senilis, and Vacor. He sat down at a terminal in the ready room and pulled up all available data on the planets in question. The screens before him filled with information, such as atmospheric compositions, geological surveys, and historical records. As he delved deeper, the information was confusing. Bor, Senilis, and Vacor were all methane atmosphere worlds, completely inhospitable to humans. Earth had no colonies or even outposts on these planets, and they were of no strategic value to humanity. So why was the Admiralty so adamant about not giving them up? Collins considered the implications. The Carothians were demanding worlds that Earth had no interest in, likely because they were valuable to the Carothians. It didn't take long for Andrew to find information on the Carothians themselves, and sure enough, they were methane breathers. So what the hell did they want with the worlds in the Green Nebula, or at least the ones with oxygen atmospheres? Was it for the resources, such as minerals and metals? That didn't make any sense either, especially since there were countless asteroids and uninhabited planets across the galaxy where these resources were readily available, and this went for both sides. Andrew made a decision and quickly called Captain Hayes to the ready room.
I think we've been looking at this all wrong,
He said, laying out his findings.
The Carothians are asking for planets we can't use. There's no point in holding on to them.
Captain Hayes nodded thoughtfully.
And what about the systems beyond the Green Nebula? What's their interest there?
Andrew shrugged.
Let's find out.
A link was established with the Carothian flagship.
Chief Negotiator Xanthor, we've considered your demands and find them intriguing. However, we must ask, what interest do you have in the systems beyond the Green Nebula?
Xanthor's eyes narrowed slightly.
Those systems are strategically important to our future plans. We require them for our expansion.
Collins pressed further.
Do those plans include colonization? If so, then many of the systems you seek have atmospheres rich in oxygen and nitrogen environments that are, as far as our records show, incompatible with Carothian biology. Is there no room for compromise in this area?
There was a moment of silence. Xanthor's expression betrayed nothing, but Collins knew he had struck a nerve. The Carothians were in the same position as the humans, demanding territory they could not use, simply to show strength and not weakness.
Am I to understand that you are making a formal offer?
Xanthor said, his voice unsure.
Not so much an offer than a request for understanding,
Andrew answered.
As you know, understanding is the key to such negotiations. Before we can offer a plan, we must know the intentions of the Carothians.
And the intentions of the humans.
I can tell you honestly, Xanthor, my intention is to avoid a war that in the end will do neither of our races any good. If Carothian life means so little to you, then I believe we are at an impasse. But if you value life as much as we do, then let's talk plainly, clearly. Most conflicts arise from a lack of understanding. Let us not let that happen here.
Xanthor considered the humans' words before asking for time to confer with his government. In a way, he looked as reluctant to speak with them as Andrew did speaking with the Admiralty. Collins turned to the captain.
We're in a unique position here. Both sides are posturing for territory that the other can't use. If we play this right, we can avoid a conflict and secure what we both need.
Captain Hayes grimaced.
It may not be so much a matter of what each side needs, but more about what we want.
Collins nodded his agreement.
Let's just hope it's not war that we both want. If that's the case, then we're wasting our time.
Better to waste time than to waste blood,
Hayes said philosophically. She was right. When the communication link was re-established, Xanthor's demeanor had shifted.
It seems we have both made demands that are ambitious and perhaps illogical.
Andrew nodded.
I'm glad you agree. I was thinking the same thing. What if we propose a mutual concession? Earth will cede the worlds of Bor, Sanilis and Vakor to the Carothian Alliance. In return, you will grant us control over the oxygen systems beyond the Green Nebula.
The Carothian negotiator considered this for a moment.
I will need formal approval. Just as you will. But I will recommend acceptance of such an agreement. It appears neither of our sides has anything the other covets, therefore there is no reason for conflict.
There is seldom reason for conflict when common sense can reign supreme,
Collins said, his heart pounding with both pride and relief.
Let me check with my people, while you check with yours.
Once both sides got approval to draft a treaty, it still took several hours to iron out the details. The signing ceremony was held via a secure holographic link. Collins and Xanthor faced each other, their respective crews now watching intently.
Today marks the beginning of a new era.
Andrew declared.
An era where we choose cooperation over conflict, understanding over hostility. Let this treaty be a testament to our mutual desire for peace and progress.
Xanthor nodded.
May our empires grow and prosper, each in their own domain. Let this agreement be the foundation of a lasting peace.
With the formalities concluded, the fleets began to part ways. The Resolute and her escorts turned toward the systems beyond the Green Nebula, while the Carothian ships set course for Bor, Sanilis, and Vakor. As the human fleet sailed through the star-studded expanse of space, Collins found a moment of solitude on the observation deck. The weight of the day's events settled over him. They had averted a war, secured valuable resources, and established a precedent for peaceful negotiation in the galaxy. Captain Hayes joined him, her presence a comforting reminder of their shared purpose.
You did well today, Andrew,
She said, her voice soft. Collins sighed.
We were on the brink of conflict over worlds neither side could use. It's almost absurd.
Then he laughed.
You know what this means? It means that in the future, there could be two major empires coexisting in the galaxy. Undoubtedly, we both will fight other wars, but between our own kind, and I don't mean humans and Carothians. I mean between oxygen breathers and methane breathers. There could be major battles taking place in neighboring systems. Hell, maybe in the same system. And no one will care. It's not about what I've got, so who gives a damn? Let them fight.
And fight we will.
Hayes said.
Unfortunately, that is the history of, well, people of all kinds, alien and human alike. It's survival of the fittest. And over territory, it's always about territory. And the galaxy has a hell of a lot of territory to fight over.
Andrew nodded.
Let's make the battles we fight for territory meaningful battles.
Hayes smiled.
Yeah, good luck with that.